afternoon, fellow Kung Fu, martial arts, karate, and everything else fans. I have the extreme pleasure, today of speaking again with Master Willie the Bam Johnson on our Keeping It Real series. And I just want to say, Master Bam, thank you for joining us today, taking time out your busy schedule to talk to us. And first and foremost, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm blessed. Just grateful to one, be here with you and share some information. And Sundays are my family day. I call it my dumb day. It's the only day I don't know how to spell 1 plus, cat or add 1 plus 1. So I only spend time with special people. So you're a special person on my slow down day.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And before we get started, I want the viewers and listeners to know that you are a very respected individual. The things that you have done both inside and outside the martial arts world cannot be duplicated. And we really appreciate the wisdom that you're about to drop on us. And you and I were talking some time ago about the concept of legacy and how important it is in not only the martial arts, but for us as African Americans and African American martial artists, and then really anyone as well. So the first question I want to ask to you today is, what does legacy mean to you?
Well, to me, it's about remembering the people that paved the way for you. For me, I like to go back to my parents and my family, regardless of, even in my new documentary, The BAMs, I talk about things that happened in my life. And regardless of what bad things happen, it's still important for me to honor my father, honor my mom, and make sure I give credit back to them. Because, I think that's important. We can never forget those people that made it possible for us to breathe, or made it possible for us to learn any of the things. I mean, nobody's an island. So to me, I think legacy in my heart is that it's really an interpretation of being loyal to those people that paved the way for me, good or bad, indifferent, whatever it may be. I still got to give them credit, and I got to always remember them. Their life expansion has to live beyond their physical being on this earth through people like me and all those people that they have affected. It's your duty to do that.
Okay. And when we talk about martial arts a lot, and you've mentioned this in previous Keeping It Reals that we've had, what is the importance? Can you speak to the importance of lineage?
Lineage. Well, I think they done forgot all about that in this day and age, man. You know what I'm saying? But all that goes right back. Lineage, legacy, loyalty, those things, they are part of the same family. I mean, we all come from some string. If you ain't coming from some string that or some root of growth that started with a seed of some particular concept or individual expression that had to be packaged to serve others, if you're not coming from that, then whatever you got is hollow. Come on, let's not get it twisted. Ain't nobody can say, well, this is my style. Bruce Lee even said that. We know where Bruce Lee's lineage is at. We know his lineage is back to Yip Man, and he makes it clear. It was because of that lineage connected back to Yip Man that made him who he is. I mean, look at Master Yama, all the, and God bless his soul, the passing of Sonny Chiba. In all his movies, he tried to remember. If you really study those movies, when they first came on, they were giving credit back to Master Yama, and so let's not, I think the problem is everybody, we get caught up into that moment, which is a part of martial arts training. I am the best. Without me, what would you do? And the problem with modern day martial arts is that when you have a disagreement with your teacher, or you get stagnated with a certain concept or way, you get up and you leave. And you might have a little bit more education or a little bit more connection than your teacher. So you go up and open up a dojo, or you might get lucky and be in a film. And then you start believing that it's because of you. You forget that it was because of that person that you left and now criticize and put down and try to disassociate with. You try to disassociate with that whole lineage of martial arts. So now you out there, you having fun. You might be making millions of dollars with your karate school. You might be doing all that stuff in the movies and famous, but guess what? One day, that same thing that martial arts made you run into and you ran away from, you're going to run into again. If you understand the beautiful thing about spiritual growth and mind, body, and spirit development that martial arts bring about, whenever you run into that, you got to learn to become friends with that and grow above it. And then guess what? Then you will stay connected to that lineage, and you will be coming back one day speaking and saying, like I say to my teacher, geez, Master Brown, I sound like you. Or also, Cassell, I remember when. And we be shedding tears in celebration like, man, I didn't know that was the lesson you was trying to teach me. But the purpose of that lineage, the purpose, you need a home to go back to. What would I? Yeah, I might be the BAM and do all this stuff. And man, I can call my teacher. I can call my teachers with something going wrong that I don't understand. I am so happy. If I lost my school and everything, I can go back home to my instructors. Mm-hmm. That's what lineage is. That's the martial arts family. That's the tree. You're supposed to honor it. And don't forget it twisted. Here's the one thing I know from coming up with Dennis Brown Shaolin Wushu Academy. I am not the best student. I am probably one of the most famous students, but I am not the best. Let me get back in that dojo when it's just like, let's practice. Man, I get my butt beat by some of my seniors in the dojo, so don't get it twisted. And I think that's the problem. It seems like American interpretation of what martial arts and competition and ego has taken precedence over the traditional base of what martial arts is all about, and that is sad. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And it makes me think of another one that's kind of connected. Do you think that what you just talked about, do you think that is related to how society in general has kind of gone? Like, I'm the individual. If I don't like something, I'm just going to leave. I really don't owe anyone anything. Do you think that's kind of connected and is found this way into the martial arts, as opposed to when you started, it might have still had people that were that way, but it wasn't so prevalent? Do you think that just our society in general and the way things are today have invaded the traditional martial arts mentality, and people have that lack of loyalty or lack of, I may disagree with my teacher on this, but that doesn't mean that I leave. We work it out. We work together. He's still my teacher.
Yeah, I agree. That's the problem in our society. We can go back to when we talked about legacy. How you going to disrespect your dad? Mm-hmm. First of all, I disrespect my dad. I ain't going to be living tomorrow. And all of y'all can think that that's wrong, but I'm glad my dad did whip my behind. I'm glad my dad did take the whip and say, go in the room. I'm glad my sister, at times where I thought I was better than her, said, all right, I got something for you. I'm going to tell you a little story. I remember one time I'm doing the karate. Sister want me to go to school. I ain't going no school. And I start breaking her up with the karate moves. Like, she's like, oh, okay. She said, I got something for you. She went outside, got that tree branch, came in. She beat me all the way to school, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to get it in check. And the problem is that those things do. You're right. I mean, how you going to disrespect, the elders, the people that made it possible for you? I don't care who you are. I don't care what education you got. I don't care what money you got. When it's time to die and it's time to go home, which is the only thing we can guarantee that's going to happen to us, if you like it or not, the only guarantee that we got is to go back where we came from. Who going to be there for you then, homie? Who going to be there to be beside your side when you dying, homie? What you going to do then? When that moment but guess what? You got everything that you want. But guess what? People like that have no respect. Let's just be honest. It don't change. I don't care. You can butter it up and all that. At the end of the day, we know inside your heart, there are many people that got money, got all that stuff, and it is some of the most miserable people in the world. That's why they are reflecting what they feel inside themselves. That's why they act like that. That's why they do like that. So you see it all around the world. I mean, you see it in society. You see guys, you see people don't even get in line to wait for their turn. They just jump in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, men don't even respect women no more. Most importantly, the adults don't even set an example for the kids. And you so busy talking about, don't worry about the kids. And then don't get me wrong. Hey, you got people, all the people that quit at some point in time, when they ran into that brick wall, when they quit, they became incomplete. So they turned the problem that, think about this, because everything that you run into, you got to find a way to become one with it and becomes a stepping stone for you to grow. Because really it's a reflection of a weakness or something you need to work on. So when you go to that and you run away from that, every time you have a conflict, you running back to that same thing. It's not until you become one and be like water, my friend, or understand the science behind it, that you begin to grow. But so you just keep having people that are incomplete. And the problem is that they haven't dealt with themselves. Let's think about this. We're in a society of people that might have education, they might have money, they might have titles, they might have movie roles, but guess what? They don't have knowledge of self. They don't spend enough time on understanding their weaknesses and their strengths. So then in return, they can be more happy, they can be more polite, they can be more considerate of the human race. But they too reactionary. They reacting on emotions. That's why a kid kills somebody, because he can't handle somebody saying, I don't like you. Think about it. People can say whatever they want to say on social media, wherever. I can say, I don't like you. I'm going to give you a thumbs down. Well, put them on Apollo and let them go and say that. And Apollo start going bananas and all that stuff. They probably go and commit suicide. I ain't trying to be funny. They can't handle the repercussions of their actions coming back to them. That's the society that we got in. They need the man the hell up and woman up and get stronger and understand that you can say what you want to say, but you better also understand the consequences of every action that you take, because you're going to meet somebody that ain't going to be like the people that just say, nah, man, I don't want, they ain't going to be like me. I'm going to give you a pass. They're going to be like the old me that I had to change from, where I ain't get nobody a pass. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. And then do you think, for instance, you are martial arts master, you're also a school owner. Do you think that, of course, I'm not talking about weight, not like the movies are 1800s or 1600s, but the training that your generation and somewhat of mine a little bit had was the things you're speaking about, we learned inside the school. It might not have been anyone telling us this, but the training itself, like standing in a horse stance for a certain amount of time, or practicing 1,000 reverse punches, not 999, 950. If it was 1,000, it was 1,000. Do you think that traditional training that you went through and a lot of other people of your generation helped with the concepts you're talking about, you know, about being strong mentally, dealing with those adversities, but getting over them, because with enough training and mental preparation, you knew that you could? Do you think that's something that's missing in a lot of martial arts today, whether they call themselves traditional or not?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna answer that question in 3 layers. Okay, to me, the first layer of when repetition for external progress, which brings about external repetition for internal progress, that brings about a level of expression on the external level that will never go away. And I'm gonna say that one more time. Repetition for internal development that brings about external expression that will never go away. Because once you have it through that sort of progress, you can stop practicing. But once you get back into the motion, it all starts coming back because it's a part of your core. Now, that was done at one level, I believe, when in the beginning of time, when these sort of successes happened with someone that was fighting and probably destroyed the enemy, and everybody wanted to learn that person began to share that out of love. They begin to structure it and put it in the curriculum so everybody can learn it, like education. You know what I'm saying? That's how curriculums and development and education was developed. So now when they put that gap, their intentions was to help. It wasn't to bring about self-imposed misery and abuse to the individuals that they were trying to help, because they were just joyful that someone wanted to learn what they had discovered. Once again, what martial arts and art is, self-discovery. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's the originals, that's the true essence of it. No intentions, none whatsoever. Not to remember that being remembered as a legend, not to be famous, not to get a belt, not to get a reward. It's just the art. It's just you get love from it because it completes you when you see it coming through someone else. Mm-hmm. But then we went to the phase where now I call it devil advocate. People did it, and that's where I came from, and it was hard. It was brutal, and it still taught the lesson, because if my instructor said hold horse stance, there was no way in my mind that I would even begin to let him sense that my eyes were saying, why am I here? Because I would get paid a price for it. Mm-hmm. There was nothing in my core, be it my eyes, my mouth, my body, that even told him that, man, I don't know what the hell this for. Who the hell you think you is? Even my parent, my mom could sense, what you talking about, boy? What you think about? But stop, think about that. See, that you never questioned it because you had a certain level of, like, I don't know, trust. What you did when you bowed, it was genuine. I love my teachers. I know that they were, you know, some of the methods, even like I talk about my dad in the documentary, were different. And I'm not going to say that a lot of them was on purpose. Maybe when my instructor, Osa Cassell, you know, I'll use one example. You know, when my instructor would sign my curriculum, would sign my black belt test paper, he said, don't let this get you in trouble, boy. He would always do something like take the keys from the dojo from me and say, you don't deserve this. You don't need to have no dojo. You don't understand what your responsibilities are. At that time, I was like the people that I talk about. I was like, man, who he think he is? He don't like me. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be better than him. You know, it's things like that. But I think their method was that they were trying to give tough love. They've been through so much in their moments that they wanted to make sure that we didn't repeat it. And the only thing they could do was creatively figure it out on the hand, because it was so authentic at that moment. And did it work? Yeah, it worked. Because look at me today. So I believe that has been lost, because now we talk about discipline, but you can't teach discipline. Discipline is a learned trait. How you going to tell somebody you're going to teach them discipline when you're not putting them in situations that's going to make them do discipline? Discipline happens after you don't want discipline anymore and you still show up to get the discipline. You feel me, brother?
I understand.
Respect happens when you're going through emotion and you want to be disrespectful and you want to hurt and kill and you want to leave, but you keep showing up and you get to the other side to realize that it wasn't them, it was you, because you didn't accept what they were giving to you because you wanted to be right. You know, muscle memory comes from thousands and thousands. Like I tell a student, how many times you did your form? Oh, I did it a couple of times. Well, until you did that kata 1,000 times the right way, then you did it backwards 1,000 times. Then you did it blindfold 1,000 times. Then you did it without your hands, just your stances 1,000 times. Then you did it without your stances, just your hands 1,000 times. Then you break the middle back to the back and then the middle back to the front 1,000 times. But guess what? You're going to be dead before you do it all those times. So guess what? You will never know what you're doing. You will keep on learning for the rest of your life. That's what's missing, because we want the belt. Guess what? Today's black belts, and this is no disrespect, let's just be real. Compared to back in the day, black belt now is a moment of remembering your technique so you can get to the level of black belt to truly learn your martial arts. We are on a journey of memorization for curriculum now. Back then, come on, man. Back then, it took a long time for you to get a black belt. You didn't even show up for a black belt. Black belt, man, you just practice. You know, especially in Chinese martial arts, there ain't no belts. You can't know about no belts. One day your instructor say, go teach. You don't question, you don't think. And this day you tell a kid, but I don't, you just said that? Oh my God, man. That's the problem even with parenting. That's the problem with our society. Your opinion. See, this, and I think I told my students that this is tying back into the school. I believe until you have studied the history and cross-reference the history of what you study to see how it connects universally to other elements of growth as a human being, and until you've now developed your interpretation through studying that, when you ask a question, sometimes you should think, is it really a need to ask that question? Because a lot of times, it ain't. If you listen long enough, you'll get the answer. But you want to be right, or you want to be a part of, or you want to be like act of importance, and you don't realize one day, if you don't learn it the right way, and if teachers continue to prepare people the incorrect way because of money, and if your intentions is not, that's the problem. They say I learned this in jail. When the guy said, he said, look, brother, when you pray, because I was at this moment where I went to anything that talked about spirituality. I was in Nation of Islam. I was in church. Wherever God spoke, I went to. That just don't happen. You just can't do that. And my mentor, he was like, man, I'm gonna tell you one thing. When you go here, and if you ask a man the historical questions based upon the facts in his book, and he puts you out, there's something wrong with him, not something wrong with you. He said the only person that can ever judge you, man, remember this, is God. And only God knows your intentions. Human beings can't see your intentions. But guess what? You know your intentions. You know when you are lying. You know when you are doing something for the wrong cause. That's the highest level of martial arts that you can only get after you didn't hate your teacher, thought you was better than your teacher, talked about your teacher, criticized your teacher, tried to do your own style. And then one day you came back and realized that it was just built upon what your teacher taught. And then one day you come back and you in so much pain and in so much darkness that you call your teacher, and then your teacher welcome you back and never say one thing about what he did. And when you say, teacher, I get it. You say, get what? I don't know what you're talking about. Let's just have a good time. They will never say, I told you so. That's the mark of a good teacher. And that's what's missing. That genuine. I'm not saying some people don't, but I think I'm a student of life. Even though you call me a master, I'm a master of trying to become myself, but I don't call myself no master of martial arts because I'm a student of life. Every day I'm reading, man, look, before me and you talk, I'm sitting there reading an old classic martial art book, trying to figure out how I can continue to carry on the discoveries that I had. And I think that's what's missing. Everybody want to be the man or be the master or the supreme grandmaster, super supreme grandmaster, guru, supreme grand, super grand, da. They weren't so much about the titles rather than what the interpretation, I would say that the intentions is truly all about. Martial arts was created to rebuild humanity. First of all, it was built to protect humanity. It was also built to make you a master self. But if you keeping it all for yourself, brother, it has no value. If it ain't affecting change amongst the people, we talking the masses, then it got a serious problem. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. You know, we keeping it real. So in that vein, I got two questions. One, I'll let you answer, then hopefully I remember it. But the process that you talked about at the end here, you know, the circle, you know, what you went over. As a school owner and a teacher, is that something that you can teach, or is it something that the student has to stay around long enough to experience? You know, like some people, they may get to the point on the circle where they're mad at the teacher and that's it for them. Then you got other people who may get to another point on the circle where they have their own school or association now, and they don't come around that 360 degrees. Is that process that you describe, which is like really a lot of self-study and self-actualization, as a school owner, I'm not saying you could teach all of it, but is that, how do you teach a certain part of it so certain students, because we know it's individual choice, but certain students don't stop at one spoke on the wheel?
Well, I think what you do from the first time you encounter anybody that comes and say, I surrender to learn what you could do to help me become a better person. From that moment, you begin them your true authentic self at that moment. And every time you encounter with them, you continue to give your true authentic self. And regardless of what belt, what rank, what time they leave, you have already begun to plant a seed inside of them for them to understand that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that it could be a moment of confusion. It could be a moment of whatever, but I don't ever teach. I always teach in love. Me and my wife, we teach with love. It might be tough love, but it's love. You know, if I tell you drop down to do something, I'm gonna do it with you because I want you to understand I'm doing it because I love you. I don't want you to go down. Oh man, sorry. Ooh, boy. I always get emotional when I go to these points, brother. I just don't want nobody to go through what I went through, man. You know, that's what's real. And I know I cry a lot about stuff, but when I think about why we do what we do, martial arts never abandoned me. It never abandoned me. I'm not talking about Hollywood. None of that stuff matters. I'm talking about martial arts. I'm talking about the principles and what it represents. It always loved me back. It always rewarded me and was always there with me. And when you run from that, you never can experience this. These tears of love to say, how can I pay you back, martial arts? That's what this is. This is just, how do I pay you back, Master Brown? How do I pay you back, China? How do I pay you back? Everybody, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, all those people that made it possible for me to fall in love with something that changed my life. That's what's missing. But regardless, if you are, the key thing too, you just can't be counting on your teacher. When you go to dojo with your teacher, you should always ask for Sifu. Is there some way that I can continue to practice what you taught me? Or there's some books or there's some DVDs, but then you got to study the book. You can't just go through the pages. I like to read and underline. I'm a slow reader because I want to study it. I want to taste it. See, that's what makes the real art. It don't matter what belt, what level you are. Once you go onto the journey of personal transformation, your mind will never be the same again. You know what I'm saying? This is like a highway. It just goes and go. Ain't no graduation. See, we might give human recognition, but remember, you can read the Bible, but you don't graduate from reading the Bible. When somebody said, when you tell somebody, I'm not preaching, but I'm just using that because that's a higher book. I'm saying, when you tell somebody, man, why don't you just read the Bible? Like, oh, I read that. You read that? It don't mean you just stop reading it. You read it whenever you in a funk or whenever you're trying to understand something. You always read it. Well, that's martial arts. You always go back to the basics. You got to have references. And guess what? I don't mean Google search. See what I mean? Go back. And this is what I always teach my students. Always investigate what I tell you to do before you do it. And connect it back to something that speaks a universal language that connects to the pioneers of all forms of martial arts, because martial arts is the universal language. So you can go over to Oyama's system and you can see the similarities. And through that understanding and that reward of like true education, you already now feel celebrated and rewarded from that internal celebration. Now you begin to find your own ways to talk about it. So when you come back to work with me, you get it. You get that the greatest teacher is you. It's already inside of you. So that's what I believe is so important for us as teachers to prepare them, because we don't know when they're going to go up. We don't know what life's going to bring, but we prepare them every second and every moment with 360 degrees of expression. You can't hand feed it. You got to be totally present. I think sometimes what happens when you're trying to, if you're trying to take them and prepare them for the cycle what happens, suppose something happened to them the next time you want to give them the next element of the cycle, you're going to have regret. Every time I encounter a student, I want to give you all. The curriculum is just the expression of who I am. It's like, even if you come to the school, I always tell a student, you pay for the curriculum, but you don't pay for my art and my expression of what I love. That's earned. You can pay me all the money to get the curriculum and you'll learn the curriculum. But if you want what the real foundation is of what I'm teaching, that's earned by what you do in your own character. That's earned by, if I say, man, maybe one day you should go get a mantis and study the praying mantis. And you don't question and ask like, well, why is he saying go get a mantis? Yeah, and I'll tell you a story. I had a little student. His name was Jeffrey Louis, and and Jeffrey, I watch him because I watch. It's like how expression is done. I watch you. I see what you do. I see what you're good at. I see where your stances are, and I watched them. And I said, "Whoa, Jeffrey, be good to teach that mantis form too." So one day I told Jeffrey, I said, "Jeffrey, maybe one day you should see what the mantis is." Jeffrey just went and he found the mantis. And then one day Jeffrey came in and I said, "Jeffrey, put your hand up." And I said, "Make it tight. Let me pinch the skin." "Well, that ain't right. Make it tighter, Jeffrey." So Jeffrey went away because he's Chinese and his dad was Chinese. His dad said, "Don't ask questions. Just go do what he say do." He had came from China. So one day Jeffrey came in and I just out of nowhere, outside of class, so just when he was going to the car, I said, "Hey, let me show you this move." And I was teaching him what I wanted to teach him at moments when he wasn't prepared for me to teach him. But he never questioned them. He just practiced them. And then one day he came into the dojo and he had a whole little jar where on the side he was studying the praying mantis. I realized as a teacher, it was worthy of teaching him more because he put forth more effort. And then he remembered the moves that I showed him, because anybody tell you when I teach on rhythm. When you start doing something and we discover what you're doing, I just add more to it. And then we just keep the rhythm going. But the moment you break the rhythm and start questioning, I'm like, man, just go ahead. I ain't teach no more. I don't teach on intellect and question. I teach on reality of motion, reality of flow, reality of energies. You know, that's why, think about it. How can you teach the flow? You can't teach nobody flow. You got to be the flow. But anyway, long story short, after Jeffrey did all that, Jeffrey's dad came back and told me, Jeffrey, he now sleeps with the mantis and all that. Guess what? I one day taught Jeffrey my special mantis form that I learned in China, and Jeffrey became one of the top world champions on the NASCAR circuit. But it wasn't because he was doing mantis to be a world champion. He was doing mantis for the art of the martial art. And the championship was a byproduct of rewarding him for his authenticity of expression. And that, so I just think we got to be present every time, because you might not get a second chance. So that's what I got to do. I got to give it to you. And as you go on your own personal journey, you'll start figuring out where you're at and what levels. Do you get the whole 360? See, I didn't get the whole 360 till I went to jail. And now I understand the 360. I understand the 360 degrees of knowledge is yin and yang. It's all the same. So I understand the good and the bad, and I don't, but you need both of them, because at some times you gotta be bad, which is bad in a good way, to be a so people don't take advantage of me.
That's true.
Sometimes you teach that stuff in a manner that, especially when you teach it and you only teach one side of it at the wrong time, you can make people think that it's okay to let people beat you up and spit on you and push you around. That's not what it's saying. So I think that's an individual journey. I wish I could give, I would be claiming to be a God if I could tell you how to do that. But I just know how I do it. I just try to be present. You can give me 1,000 students and I'll teach each one of them individually, even in a room of 1,000. I will try to see your eyes. If I can't physically touch you, I'll touch your spirit through your eyes, or I'll high five you in the air. I will do something that will let you know that I'm presently connected to you through my vibrations and through my chi expression of what I'm doing. And vibration and chi and ki is all the same thing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to change gears slightly, but not too much, because it's going to kind of tie in, I think. In thinking about a lot of what you said, and, I'm a martial arts movie guy, and I'm thinking that the movies I grew up on from the 70s and the 80s has something in it that the modern ones don't have. And that's the student-teacher relationship and the part about training. And when I started, when my teacher told me to do something, because we know movies ain't real, but because I did watch the movies, it wasn't that hard for me to say, oh, okay, even if I didn't understand it. Because in the movies, the dudes would do that and then they would have all these skills, etc. In the martial arts media, we don't get that a lot now. You might get it here and there, something that Sifu Robert Samuels does, something that your son, Marco the Answer, does. and things like that. But on a like a super Hollywood scale, we don't get it. Do you think that that absence in the movies of the training scene, the student teacher relationship has kind of hurt even the real martial arts, traditional martial arts industry?
Well, I do, but I think you'll get that in Robert's Parham and our film with 1 out of 100. Mm-hmm. We got that coming with who Marco's brother Messiah stars in, you know. So I mean, but there we go again. I mean, look at that, man. Who would think who would think a brother like me that been through everything that you can possibly imagine would have children that are doing something that I never thought that would even be possible, and have students that are behind every aspect of Hollywood that you could ever imagine. And that goes back to, I say again, when your intentions is truly to serve a higher purpose, God do things that say, look, 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 look. And I think that goes back to which, see, if we go back, we both love martial art movies the same way. To me, it took me a long time to understand that that story in Chinese Connection was based upon a real Kung Fu master. So the concept of the movie, certain movies at that time were real. You know what I'm saying? When Jimmy Wayne Yu was talking about Hammer God, he was talking about the iron fist. I mean, the iron palm, you know, which is a true element that's now taken out of Kung Fu, because people, we used to teach it. I ain't teach that to nobody. They ain't even ready for it. That's a select group. You can't pay for that. You know, so it's, I mean, Shaw Brothers was true. The one thing we got to remember, Shaw Brothers was truly, I go back to one of the greatest Kung Fu movies. And I told you this last time, 7 Blows of the Dragon. Mm-hmm. When you think about, it was like stealing from the rich to give to the poor, like a Robin Hood story based upon these ancient things. But let's think about it. And I'm going to go back to the training thing, but Kung Fu Panda is powerful. It was based upon those things.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I mean, when you really understand, I think the problem is that the concept of what they're trying to show, it is connected to elements of life that somebody that's writing is really trying to connect. Because look at Infinity, and look at certain things that are written in the script. The problem is that they don't have the type of martial artists. I'm talking real martial artists. No offense to anyone. Once again, you dropped out, you went and got a green belt, or you didn't complete it, and you started doing all your flips and your tricks, and every complaint you make is back about the school you left, or back about the martial artists that didn't get and didn't understand your vision. So you're a loner. You out here, and you might be the most sought after, you know what, stunt person there is. But guess what? One thing that my instructor always told me, he said, Bam, it's going to be great out there and being famous and doing all the things you do, but never forget you need a home to come back to when they're no longer keeping you in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. So I think when we go back to, it takes us, those people that love, because there's still a wide open audience out there that wants this and they hungry. I mean, they just sitting there waiting for it. You're going to see it in 1 out of 100, I'm telling you. And and I'm not giving my own self a pat on the back, but that's my mission. My mission is to tell real urban expressions, influences of martial arts, but show the essence of real martial arts being displayed with philosophies and not killing. You know, it might be some killing, but for a purpose and for honor and for things that can empower us and can uplift us. And yeah, I'm talking core training scenes. I'm a real martial artist, and what I represent, it got to represent real martial arts. It got to go back to show you that, hey, you might talk about all the other great people, but let's remember that Dennis Brown was the last guy that starred in a Shaw Brothers movie called The Dancing Warrior, where he was a hero. Mm-hmm. Remember that? He was doing real Kung Fu, doing his own stunts, doing all that stuff, had advertisement for his Kung Fu school and everything. He met with all the top Shaw Brother people. He was destined to be a hero, and they held him up. So I'm just following the same path of what my teacher did. So I think it takes people like us to talk about it. It takes people that are in the positions that can write about it and do things with it to express it and make that another wave of film development for a genre of people that's looking for it. And I'm one of them. I probably never talk about it much and took a back seat, but I ain't taking no back seat no more. 1 out of 100 was for me to come back and say, look, I got a bunch of movies we did under the belt, and I'm gonna call them on a food stamp budget, you know, and all of them paid way to the kids that you see out there, our kids out there doing what they're doing, you know. So it's about, think about it. And Into the Dragon, if you get the cut that was not in the movie, you'll hear the whole philosophy of what Bruce Lee gave. That's what I'm talking about. If you might cut it out, but I want to go somewhere where I can possibly keep it all in. And if you do cut it out, you know, it can be on the, what is it? The outtake. The extra footage or whatever it may be. But it's about uplifting people through entertainment. I have no desire to be famous. I'm still a teacher, and that's what martial arts is. And I think it goes back to that. Remember, all those people, to me back then, Shaw Brothers and everybody, they were martial artists. And in martial arts, if you have something to teach, you got to find different forms to express it, be it film, books, be it music, be it whatever. It's art. That's why it's called martial arts.
Very well said.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, very well said. And then, you know, you just keep getting me to think about some things when you express it like that. That, for instance, I know for me, you know, there's a documentary on Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef, The Hangman, that I saw that was excellent. Your documentary, The BAM, which I saw like 3 times, so that's excellent. And then, you know, I always wondered, you know, like martial artists like the late Jim Kelly and some other Grandmaster Steve Muhammad, also known as Steve Sanders back in the day. And I'm like, you know, nowadays with YouTube, with independent film, with streaming services, there is a way to educate and entertain at the same time, like documentaries such as yours, such as Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef's. But I've longed for so long to see ones on Jim Kelly, Steve Muhammad, and several other great Black martial artists from every era, you know, Grandmaster Ronald Duncan. I could go on and on, but I think that like you said, there's a void that's missing there. And I think if some people could fill that void, we might have a better outcome in some things over time, because these stories need to be told, because the same things these gentlemen were dealing with, fast forward 35, 45 years later, it's pretty much a lot of the same story.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that you said Grandmaster Steve Muhammad, because I just did an interview with Grandmaster Steve Muhammad this past Friday. And oh my God, man, you know, once again, I stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm so rich. I'm so wealthy because I never realized that these people recognize what I'm doing at this level until I call them and I ask them, can I get them on my radio show? And they begin to, Abdul Matakabara and people like that. I mean, I'm like in awe. You know, first of all, I come from a legacy of 2 of the greatest Kung Fu Black African-American martial artists, which people don't recognize and understand. Remember, there would be no Kung Fu ranking system if it wasn't for Dennis Brown. I was there. He was one of the first Blacks to go to China and become the first one to get recognized in Wushu as a teacher. He could speak fluent Chinese. He created the whole ranking system. He's the only Black to oversee a whole system and be recognized as the Grand Master now of the Tien Shin Pai system. Tayari Cassell, he was ground fighting when y'all thought he was getting knocked out. He was hitting people with scissors takedowns. I mean, he was doing movies in New York with Thomas LaPuppet and them when they were doing them movies back then in the 70s and making them right there in New York City. Understand your history. See, I understand my history. What we doing ain't nothing new. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, if we did remember our history, come on, Master Stephen Muhammad. I mean, look, these are real martial artists. These are real martial artists. They didn't encounter stuff that made it possible for anybody out there that want to criticize and talk about the history. If it wasn't for them taking the bullet and a knife in the back for you, homie, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? So it is our duty. It is our honor. It is our necessity. Even on the street, you get no respect if you don't. I'm gonna go street for you. All right. I'm sitting there I'm now a hustler. I'm getting money. I'm the man. People ringing my name out. You know, I got all the money, got whatever I want. And then somebody come up the stair and they trying to cop. And for a while, I'm like, moving cop, what's up? What y'all want? Get it, line up. Don't move. Put your hands up on him or search him. Then some guy come through, say, man, can I get something? And you looking like, line up. And somebody say, yo, you know he used to be such and such. Chill on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is with the youngins, you going to treat him like he ain't nothing. And he used to be all that, but F him. He get in line. No, me, I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. Please, you know, and people did this for me. I'm trying to do whatever I can do and even though it's illegal activity, I'm still trying to show him the respect and the honor for who he once was, and trying to show love and consideration, because what we all forget, and I don't care, and I ain't promoting violence or nothing, but why is it whenever a black person talk about how the hustling game transferred into a legal game, for them, we always think that I'm promoting violence, because every race of people always did the same thing. That's how they got wealth. Everybody that came over here was a part of the gangster. So that's another story in itself. We still got them around right now. At least I ain't doing it no more. But whatever goes up must come down. I know that firsthand. So it's our duty to honor them. I mean, come on, man. If I tell you something, man, I got a podcast and I got some video that I'm getting ready to let out. When I tell you some of the greatest masters, Steve Muhammad, I mean, we got the founder and the pioneer of a Harang Do system. I got stuff that's like, you would be like, well, he's Kung Fu. Why would he be doing all this with all these people? And how come he not talking about martial arts? How come they talking about Master Muhammad talking about things he went through that would shock your system? We ain't talking about all this, talking about experiences with Bruce Lee and all this stuff. But I think what happened is that, I would say this last thing on that topic, the moment I went to a seminar and Joe Louis, the great Joe Louis, said, Bam's a martial artist, and we talked and he treated me like I had now graduated to be amongst him, not as a Kung Fu man, but as a martial artist who represent a urban culture. Now, if any old person out there or anybody that want to think about what I'm saying, I was a kid that now I get a chance to be amongst all these great people, recognized for my struggle and how I has transferred it into being a stepping stone of empowerment for me. That's what martial arts is all about. And if you strong enough and conscious enough, and most importantly, these guys are humble. They can whip your butt. I'm talking to Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef on Friday, and I'm like in tears. I'm like, I'm talking to you. You're like, oh man, I'm just a young kid from Brooklyn, man. My instructor, Master Brown, the first time I met him, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm with Dennis Brown. Like, come on, man, I'm just a man just like you. See, those are the real people that are masters. Why? Because they don't call themselves masters. They express that spirit and so forth. And I think it's important for us as real martial artists to tell those stories. It's my duty. Everything that I do is a reflection of what these guys did for me. I stand on the shoulders of giants. I ain't no giant. I'm a little small pebble, and everything that I do, even this truth that I'm saying, I'm glad I'm at that level, because this whole thing about legacy and pioneer and all that, that's to remember them, man. I'll never forget them. There would be nobody out there. I don't care what film you're doing. See, but here's the other thing. If you are a martial artist and you are true, and I know Bruce Lee and certain people, and Bruce, the one thing we can say, Bruce Lee was true to this. Bruce Lee was true to expressing martial arts and telling stories through every aspect of his martial arts. He did not let some money man come in to make him sell out from what he was trying to tell. Chuck Norris did the same thing when he took control of his own career. You know what I'm saying? So you got to decide what you want to be. You know, you can fall for everything, or you can decide at some point in time to stand for something. I stand for telling stories about the power of what, if martial arts film did this to me, come on, brother. If we stay true, imagine how many lives we can change. If hip hop can inspire so many people by staying true to the authenticity of it, even though you might see what's on the radio, you still got people in the underground. Look at what Jada Kiss showed you. Jada went on the battles and said, nah, ain't happening like that, Hobie. You see that thing that Jada Kiss did? Man, so that's what we said with martial arts. Come on, man. We got to keep the underground and we all come together like Master Demetrius. There's a bunch of people said, nah, we got to bring back the real martial artists. So guess what? If you in the film, it ain't got to be no A level, whatever. You can still get wealthy at any level of film, especially in this day and age if you're consistent. But when they bring the camera on, you're supposed to be promoting the martial arts and why somebody should go to a dojo to get the authentic training of martial arts. It's not up to us to judge what that dojo represent, but it should be for the benefit of someone getting a chance to make their own decision of what they want to do with that school or what school they want to do. But like WMAC Masters, at the end of every show, it said, be a WMAC Masters, call this 800 number. You can go to a martial arts school of your choice.
Today's show dealt with discipline, one of the 8 points of the Dragon Star. Remember, do what's right, don't fight. If you want to learn the martial arts, start by learning the code of the Dragon Star, and you could become a WMAC master yourself.
Of your choice. That's what I'm all about. I'm about the whole industry, not just one aspect of it. Even if they don't support me, but I don't need their support. What I need to remember is to stay true to what the true essence of martial arts is. And that's what this is all about. Does that?
Yes. Oh yeah. That more than answers it. And I think those are some great points. And it's something that me and my martial arts friends have conversations about. And I think you hit it on the head. That's what's kind of missing when I see some of the media, the popular media of I can't even call it martial arts. I call it action cinema because I really can't call it martial. I call it action cinema with stylized fight scenes because I can't call it martial arts because it's missing those elements that you were just speaking about. The trying to show a greater good, the student-teacher relationship, the respect just among other humans inside of that martial arts school. And I think with 1 out of 100 that you got coming up with your documentary, The BAM, and I know you got several other projects coming up too, it's going to speak to that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity now. Can you give us, if you know, a release date, public release date for 1 out of 100 and speak to any other projects you have in the works or what's going on with The BAM in terms of that?
Well, I think we do one out of 100 is in pre-production. What I'm currently now doing, working on 1 out of 100 part 2. That's going to blow everybody's mind. So that's how I am. I've always been that way. Got a couple of books we got out right now. Of course, we got the back there. It's called the Kidz Action Martial Arts Choice Awards. We got that coming up in January, which is going to be huge. And it's to celebrate every child on this planet for what they have done and how they've been so resilient by using martial arts during COVID. So anybody out there, be a part of that, man. This is going to be huge. We got everybody coming together. And I think at this moment in time, and hopefully we will never have another moment in time like this, we need to come together, unite, and remember, for every kid that showed up, I don't care if they did a push-up or ran or did something, they need to be recognized. And this ain't one of those awards where it's like everybody's a participation. No, thing you got to remember during COVID, they did more than participate. They survived this tragic thing that we still trying to get to the other side of. So we need to recognize them. We need to really show and pass that. Now, I don't want to say go and pass the torch, but recognize them and celebrate them. And that's what Comica, that's what Comica is about. Then, of course, we got some stuff. We got a movie documentary premiere at Master Demetrius event coming up in November the 12th. He got some other major stuff coming up with the WMAC Masters, a little reunion. I mean, and everybody's calling like, can you bring the Masters back? Can you do whatever? So of course we got that. And then of course we got some other major events coming back as Point may come back. And I got some other documentaries that I'm working on. Some other instructional videos that I'm working on. But if you ever look at my resume, all the things I'm doing, you'll see that I've been doing these things since my whole career. I always doing instructional video tapes, doing whatever I can do to put forth the story. I think honestly, what I just want to really do, I want to tell, for me, everything that we're touching and we pushing forward, I want to show people once again, a little kid from the inner city can transform his life to become the person I am right now. And I think the one thing that speaks the most is that I have more students in Hollywood doing movies than probably any other instructor. And I never even set sight to teach this and do this for them kids. But now you got kids, and that goes back to legacy. And I'll say this for everybody that's out there that's doing something, and you know you came from the BAMs, even as a little baby, to be blessed, to be the producer and director of some of the major shows and be stunt double in some of the major shows. Remember, I authentically gave it to you and broke the cycle of not spreading the love to you, but you forgot to give it back to the next generation that's looking up to you and know where you come from. That's what this whole show about. You forgot. Forget me, because I'm good. It's like Public Enemy say, I don't need no applause. I don't need you to do nothing for me. I'm good because I got God. But them other little kids, thousands of them that know where you come from. This is something for that group of people too. And it's still tying into the question, and maybe this is really what the BAM's doing. When I was a world champion, I used to come off the stage from competing, and little kids be like asking me for autographs. And when I would come off, when I was walking, because I was in the zone while I was going up, I said, you got to wait till after I'm performing, because I don't give autographs when I'm going up. I need to stay in the zone. But when I walked off, and I tested, you ask anybody, when they would say, can I get your autograph? I said, if you give me your autograph first, I would give you mine. They were like, mine? I said, yeah, you make me who I am. So let me give you give me yours, then I give you mine. That's the same thing. That's how I live. I'm nothing without you. You're nothing without them. So pass the torch. We keep the legacy alive. Let it continue to vibrate from you back to the next generation. Because many of those people out there, you were a shy kid who had no confidence. If I'd have been egotistical, and if I wouldn't have took the time and the patience to show you them little things, you wouldn't have had the confidence to be what you do what you're doing right now, like what you talk about a teacher. Remember them little kids behind me. Help them out. Keep that bridge for them. You ain't even got to worry about me. Give it to them, then I'm good. You feel me?
Oh, yeah. That's
all right, good.
Yeah, that's legacy.
All right. Thank you. My wife calling me. So
all right. Thank you, Master Bam.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.